2025.
So the difference here is because Lake Drive is static, we don't get all the sewer work done in the first 3 phases, because we have 2 years to slip in, other projects, and those other projects on this particular illustration are Oakland Avenue. Again, if this is the concept that you want to further explore or select, we can refine exactly where Oakland Avenue falls in the schedule.
So does this knock out, I would assume this knocks out mill and overlay, and you wouldn't need it, you wouldn't patch out?
Not mill and overlay. I think under any of these scenarios, we're going to probably need to do some mill and overlay.
Okay.
It will just vary depending on which, baseline A, B, C you select.
But you're talking about Oakland, right, or you're talking about?
Summit and Shepherd
So I guess Oakland has moved up so
I
far.
don't know, one of those 3, Hackett, Summit, and Shepherd, I know it's
Yeah.
really bad.
Right. So particularly, so even if you picked, one of the alternatives that has the compressed annual schedule, we would still look at kind of jumping to the end of that and giving those areas some relief with a temporary mill and overlay.
Like the south, that's
Yeah,
south.
like down here, but I think he was asking about some of those repairs to Oakland. Would we still do that, or?
That kind of goes back to the, the discussion we had under the other with Joel, that, that's, we will have to do something. The question
If we
is
wanna
what we do
Slows
and how we do
traffic.
it.
Right.
It slows you down. It slows you
Probably
down.
less,
Yeah, as long as
and if we know we're gonna get to it by 2025, I mean, we probably don't need to do as much as we would do if it was until 2030. Yeah.
So, but this does knock alleys out, right?
This one would also knock alleys out. So anything, I mean, that kind of our current infrastructure policy approach right now is major projects, infrastructure, sewer, water, road, are done in even calendar years. And then in odd calendar years, we schedule the smaller infrastructure projects, your standalone water main, your alleys, your sidewalk. If we're doing major projects every year, we don't really have the place to slot those smaller projects.
Busy.
Well, maybe one way to approach this is reordering of the projects with sewer first, and then talk about scheduling. Because we also don't have to do every single year. I mean, we could do 2021 through 2023, and then take a break and do some alleys, and we don't
You could do that.
So it's kind of like, I think we have what order do we want to do things in, and then how fast do we want to do things? And I guess another question which Trustee McCabe brought up via email, Mark, is because we're talking about the same total dollar amount of work, just putting it in different years, the impact on it's just whether we issue the debt earlier or later.
Yeah, the overall costs tend to be pretty consistent, and obviously there's gonna be an impact, but we're not talking about magnitudes of adding 10 million projects in one scenario and not having them in the other.
Right.
This would be pretty consistent across the board.
Although we are gonna have potentially bigger, Band-Aid costs, if we wait longer, we're gonna have to, I guess we'll have the mill and overlay on the east side either way, right?
We'll have some.
Anyhow, we're gonna have to do that. But I guess that what we do on Oakland could potentially be more expensive if we postpone that later, because we're gonna have to, we can't just fill potholes, we're gonna have to actually patch concrete. So, so that's another, there could be some marginal cost by
But again,
stretching things out.
$30 million project plan, that variance is significant in real money, but from the plan perspective, again, I think it's something you just have to knuckle into and develop once the board gives direction on a bigger philosophy.
Well, yeah, but I guess I'm thinking cost-wise, so we might have more in road Band-Aid costs if we stretch it out, then on the other hand, if we do it faster, we have more in staff costs, so
Right.
we have increased costs either way.
Yes. I- Would you
Yes,
tend
I would
to-
agree.
Oh, that's.
You know, and I think the other thing that you could consider during that discussion or consideration is the Lake Drive example. You know, you made an informed decision to make that investment, but we made it a point to make it early enough so that we would get a return on that prior to its reconstruction.
Right.
So I think that's really the key that you have to consider is, if you're gonna make those temporary, you know, are you gonna get enough of a return on them to make them defensible or arguable or worthwhile?
But I mean, we're not starting here till, our part isn't starting till 2022 really, so
Right.
we have 2021 to
Mhm.
do a lot of mill and overlay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, I think we should, I mean, yeah, in a sense, if we do mill and overlay in 2021, then leaving these other parts till later, I think, you know, we're okay. I mean, assuming, I don't know how long, because the road bed is so bad, I'm not sure how long the mill and overlay is gonna last over there.
Well, I mean, it's basically just vehicular traffic, you're not getting,
Right.
it's not a Lake Drive or a Wilson, where you're getting truck traffic.
Right.
Won't be perfect, but.
Quick question, I think probably everyone at the table probably knows this, but I just wanna make sure that I'm clear on it. So bonding earlier for those projects won't have an appreciable impact other than us paying interest earlier, is that correct? Since it's all in the plan anyways, I just wanna make
Pay
sure.
interest early, pay interest later, I mean, one might argue that interest rates are still have a lot of room to move up, so
That's
doing
true.
more sooner might be more cost effective.
Okay, good.
I'm not making that argument, but I'm just saying, again, with the many factors involved, it's a lot of moving pieces, but yeah, it's just, one way or another, you're gonna pay the same interest for these projects for a 20-year cycle.
It's all the
It's
same
just-
years, so it's really 6.5.
Just when it kicks in, yeah.
Okay.
I like
So-
the idea of doing the sewer work earlier and compressing it so it's done. So the resident, cause it's so disruptive to that if you stretch it out over lots of years, it's gonna seem like you're always in major projects.
Well,
That's true.
I think you will anyway.
Yeah, it looks like it, but.
I mean, you know, that's the reality. We've been planning this for a long time, and the
Right.
board has made a conscious decision not to make infrastructure investments in that area until we understand
Yeah.
the extent of the sewer work and what it entails and where it will occur. So, you know, we're gonna be a presence in that neighborhood for the next 10 years. There's just no getting around it.
So Mike, is that alternative C then?
Accelerating as much as we
I
could.
think, yeah, I think C,
See,
or C, yeah, I
C
think
is
it's C.
C's
Oh,
every.
oh,
But you know, but so if we do the mill overlay, you know, in that corner in 2021, then we could do the sewer in 2022 and 2023,
Mhm.
and we have 2026, but that gives us some time, you know, and then it's really just how we slot in Oakland.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
So we have 24, so maybe 24 and 25, like, maybe we just do the worst part of Oakland in 4 and then 6, and then get to North Oakland later, I don't know. Do North Oakland in 2030?
Isn't that another great?
Yeah. So if we accelerate the first couple of years of the sewer, that like do C for the first couple of years, do you, the additional staff, is that, how do you address, would you contract for that work? Well, it's project management, so it's, you would,
You know, that would certainly be one approach. You know, I would have some hesitation about hiring someone that you only really intend to use for 2 years. You would have to be very upfront and very
Right.
transparent
Right,
about that.
yeah.
And then, that's certainly gonna impact your candidate pool.
Right.
So, that'd be something I think we would need to talk about. If what, in reality here, what you're looking at, if option C is selected, we'll call it a hybrid of option C.
Yeah.
Okay, you do 2022, 2023, like I think I heard you say. You take a little bit of a break until Lake Drive, maybe you do alleys, maybe you do something else,
Right.
to be determined. Then really, we're doing sewer work as a completely standalone village project, we're only doing 2. The Lake Drive project is going to be bid as a State Department of Transportation contract.
Yeah.
We're going to be a partner, but we're gonna have a more limited role, just because they have the way they do things and that's how we do things. So that being the case, I think, that'd be something that would seem it's certainly a good possibility, that if that is the case, then it may make more sense just to really look at some significantly increased construction management and contract hours. I think as something else sort of to think about, staff, DPW staff particularly, thinks it is very strongly believe that it's in the village's best interest to have a single sewer engineer design all phases of any sewer improvements.
That makes sense.
So that we would have one contract, one designer that would be on board throughout the entire process, however long we ultimately determine that is.
Yep.
I think ideally, we would want that person on board. In a perfect world, we want them to be at our disposal, so to speak, during the MMSD project, so that, there's full coordination and consultation there. And, I think going even a step further is that contract should pretty much off the bat include the construction management, the field inspection, that sort of thing, so that there's seamless communication and coordination between the engineer, the designer, the construction manager, the field inspection team, and then ideally, it's someone that our staff either is familiar with or has time to develop a good rapport with, because the impact of this project on residents is gonna be pretty significant. This is, all of Shorewood is densely developed. This, is certainly kind of ground zero for that. And we're talking about some pretty significant excavations, literally feet from people's front doors. So there's going to be big impact. There's gonna be a lot of resident contact with DPW. So if we have a field staff that we know and have some familiarity with, and they understand the expectations, it just makes for a more successful project for you, for us, for the residents, just everybody. So regardless, I think, of what alternative you ultimately select here, or a hybrid of these, that's a process that I think we're gonna have to start, relatively quickly. When I say relatively, I don't mean July, whatever, but,
2020 work plan.
certainly a 2020 work plan.
Beginning of the year.
Yeah, not next week.
Yeah.
Do we have designs for the MMSDs
No,
improvement?
they, as a matter of fact, we had the kickoff meeting, their design kickoff meeting was held last week.
Do we need to have their design before we start thinking about our design, right?
And I don't know about thinking about, but certainly, there's some, they need to, they need to work together, so,
I guess my question, if we sort of front load the sewer to 2023, and we've mill and overlaid the roads, so we kinda dealt with that. And we sort of take a break, 24 and 5, and then do Lake. How do we Band-Aid Oakland until
Mm.
out that far?
So,
I mean, we'd have to
I'm
do
gonna
a
ask
concrete
Oakland Joel.
patching.
yeah.
Okay.
I would prefer not to wait that long to Band-Aid Oakland.
No, I mean, we'd have to do that, like,
Yeah.
sooner,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then to get it.
But I mean, I guess, yeah, it'd be nice to know, like, some kind of order of magnitude of how much we're talking about for that. And maybe we can have that at another meeting, I don't know. So, I mean, I don't know, it sounds, I don't know what people think, but it sounds like we're saying, do the sewers in 2022 and 2023, take a break for 4 and 5, alleys, other stuff, Lake in 2026, so we wouldn't get to Oakland till 2027 at the soonest.
Go ahead.
On C, we have like Shepherd, it looks like it's in 2026 too, at least.
Yeah, we added that because there is sewer on Shepherd,
Okay,
and just because of where it is, it
Just get
makes
it
the
done.
most sense to
Okay.
add it to the
so it's part of the
project.
lake project.
I just, is that an option? Like, is a hybrid between sort of B and C something that is an option, or is that,
Sure.
okay.
It sounds like there's kind of we're coalescing around, get the sewers done a little
Mhm.
earlier, and then kind of revert back into the
Figure out.
normal extended
Mhm.
schedule.
Mhm.
But we're talking about mill and overlay next year,
Yeah.
so people aren't waiting till forever, and but then we still go to Oakland, yeah.
Yep.
So I just wanna understand, because ultimately, I'm gonna have to
Yeah.
go back to Leanne and get some numbers.